Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So the 49ers actually may not be done adding depth to this roster for this playoff push that they're going to have coming up soon. Matt Barrows of The Athletic is tweeting out that the 49ers are believed to be one of the teams most interested in tight end Zach Ertz, who may wait until next week to decide. He basically went on to say the Niners theoretically could put Ross Dwelley on injured reserve to make room for Zach Ertz to sign him. Now, obviously, with Ross Dwelley, he has a high ankle sprain that he suffered in the Philly game, and it's likely going to land him on injured reserve. Therefore, if the 49ers put him on injured reserve, that would open up a roster spot that the 49ers could use to go sign Zach Ertz. And then he tacked off the tweet with Shanahan is all for adding veteran weapons with a Super Bowl ring to the roster, which yesterday we already seen Logan Ryan get signed by the Niners to add veteran defensive back depth. Logan Ryan, I talked about this in the video. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, so he's bringing Super Bowl pedigree to the Niners, and Zach Ertz could potentially do the same thing. So clearly, though, like, the Niners don't need Zach Ertz, right? We have George Kittle. He's fully healthy. There's nothing to worry about there. But when it comes to Zach Ertz, we could easily have one of the better 1-2 punches in the league with a healthy Zach Ertz and then obviously George Kittle being a top 2 tight end in the NFL. So all in all, it makes sense because clearly, the Niners want to add depth to the tight end position with Dwelley potentially going on injured reserve with the high ankle sprain. And the thing with Zach Ertz, too, is he's very experienced. He's been in the league for so long. And he's a player that the Niners could easily sign, and he could come in and get, admitted into this Shanahan offense just like that. He's a smart player as well. And he'd have a chance to potentially win another Super Bowl, but this time with the Niners, of course. So it's an interesting type of thing. I know a lot of Niners fans out there were talking about how, well, why didn't they just put in a claim for him whenever he was waived by the Cardinals? Well, here's the issue with that. If they'd claim him, they would have been obligated to pick up the remainder of his contract, and clearly the Niners don't really need to add any other contracts to this roster already. Nobody's claimed him, of course, hence to why that he's a free agent now. So this is an intriguing thing that the Niners could definitely do to bolster their tight end depth. And it makes sense too. The Niners don't need him because we have a starting tight end in George Kittle, but Ross Dwelley got playing time. Charlie Warner gets playing time here and there, but I think a lot of people feel more comfortable about a guy like Zach Ertz coming in. He's got championship pedigree he can bring. We would have a very good 1-2 punch. We could have 2 tight end sets with Zach Ertz and things of that nature. So it's definitely a thing to watch for sure. I would not rule out the Niners signing him one bit. The Niners are known to add people with Super Bowl history and Super Bowl rings that some of the players that they've signed have had in the past. You look at Emmanuel Sanders, of course, a couple of years ago whenever we signed him midway through the season. He's been in a Super Bowl before. He's won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. But he came in and, he immediately knew what the task was, and that move actually really, really worked out for the 49ers. And I felt like that Emmanuel Sanders signing in 2019 was what put the 49ers over the top. Because obviously in 2019 we had a very young Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk wasn't even on the team yet. So when it comes to, we had obviously Kendrick Bourne and things of that nature, but the Niners at the time really needed another, solid wide receiver 2/fringe wide receiver 1, and Emmanuel Sanders came over and did exactly that. So obviously, though, with Zach Ertz, he's not going to come in and overtake George Kittle's position, obviously, but he can definitely add depth at the position in which we're going to need with Dwelley going on injured reserve with the high ankle sprain. it's likely he's not going on injured reserve, but it's likely. I mean, obviously, if he goes on injured reserve, that would make the most sense for the Niners to sign Zach Ertz, because obviously we would have an open roster spot. So something to keep an eye out on for sure. We'll see, if anything develops over the next couple days. Obviously, that's when Zach Ertz is expected to make his decision. So we shall see if he ends up in San Francisco competing for another championship, or if he goes elsewhere. I know the Eagles have a need at tight end with Goddard. I believe Goddard's supposed to be coming back this week, but might as well sign him. Don't let him go back to Philly. And like I said, I mean, he's going to add depth. He's won a Super Bowl before. The Niners are known to add people that have championship pedigree, and that's exactly what Zach Ertz has. So again, we'll see, of course, if the Niners and Zach Ertz come to a deal or whatnot, but something to keep an eye out on. But it's rumored to be, it is rumored that the 49ers are interested in Zach Ertz. So obviously something to monitor, and obviously I'll keep you guys updated on that situation. With that being said, as always, go Niners. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys think the Niners should move forward with Zach Ertz and sign him. Again, I think it makes more sense than it doesn't make sense. He's going to be cheap. The Niners obviously didn't put in a claim for him because of the contract, like I said. So it only makes sense for them to sign him, for the remainder of the season to add depth at the tight end position. But of course, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, go Niners.